You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to create this colorful house together. We'll start with the basic shapes, then we'll add trees and bushes, and then we'll start adding texture to all of the shapes we have created. And you will learn about layers, alpha lock, and the selection tool along the way. And once you have your awesome result, then don't forget to share it. If you are sharing it on Instagram, then tag me in the image, not just in the description, so we might find your work in the next video. Also check out these awesome works by my friends at Patreon. That's the place where you can find more than 100 other Procreate tutorials, plus loads of brushes, so if you can't get enough after watching this tutorial, then go ahead and check out my Patreon page. During this tutorial, we will be using free brushes only, brushes that are already in the app, plus some brushes that are in my treasure chest. If you don't already have that, then go to Free From Flow to grab yours. No worries, it's totally free. For this tutorial, I have dropped a link to the color palette in the description as always. And the canvas we'll be using is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. We will be making quite some layers during this tutorial. I think about 26, so if your iPad can't handle a lot of layers, then I would suggest making your canvas a bit smaller. If you will be working with a smaller canvas, then you will need to make your brushes a little bit smaller as well, so just keep that in mind. I think we're ready to get started, so go ahead, grab your pencil or your finger or whatever you like to draw with, and let's drop in a color for our background. Let's go to the colors and to our color palette and grab the first color that you see in there and drag it onto the screen. Now let's go ahead and make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And then for our brush, we are going to use the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. And for our color, we'll be using this color over here. It's the 7th color in the 3rd row. Let's zoom out of our canvas a little bit. That way you can see the size of your canvas, and we'll know that our line will go all the way from the left to the right. And we are going to make a line. Well, it should start about 1/3 of the height, about here. And we'll make a line from the left to the right and then hold it in place to make it snap to the quick line, and then tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly horizontal line. And now we'll drag in the color below here. And this is why it's so important to have your line all the way from the left to the right, otherwise the paint would have spilled all over our canvas. I want this green shape to be a little bit higher. Let's go to the move tool, the little arrow, set it to freeform, and then drag this blue handle up a little bit. I want it to be around here. The height is around 1103 to be exact. Now let's go ahead and make a new layer to start building our house. Let's tap the plus. And to make a perfectly symmetrical house, we are going to use the symmetry tool. We have to turn that on by going to the wrench, then to canvas. And then over here you can turn on the drawing guide and then go to edit drawing guide. Here at the bottom you will find some options, and the one we will need is the symmetry option. You don't need to change anything, you can just tap done. And now when we go to the layer menu, you will see that this new layer that we have created, that it has assisted underneath. And that means that symmetry is turned on for this layer. And you can also see that it's not turned on for layer 2 and layer 1. Now for the color of our brush, we are going to use this 3rd color in the 1st row. And we are going to start by making a horizontal line. Let's just start in the center here and go to the right to about halfway, and then hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly horizontal line. And I want it to go to about here. So that's about halfway of half our canvas. Now let's make a line going up here, a vertical line, then hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line, and then again tap one finger on the screen. Keep your finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly vertical line to about here. And then we'll make a horizontal line to the center. Again, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and now we have a nice box. And now we are going to start about halfway of this half of our box, and we'll make a diagonal line to the center to make a pointy roof here. Then we are going to drag in a color to fill these shapes. And now let's go ahead and make a new layer on top. We'll go to the layer menu, tap the plus. And for this layer, I want to use symmetry as well. So we can tap the layer and turn on drawing assist here. Now you can see that this layer is assisted as well. Now for our brush, we are going to use a brush from the treasure chest brush pack. And that will be That's a Line brush, because that will give us a line. It's all in the name. And for our color, we are going to use this 6th color in the first row. The opacity of the brush should be at 100%, and the size, let's set that to 16%. Now let's zoom in a little bit on our house. And let's start over here in this corner and make a line going up, and hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape, and then make the lines attach up here. And we'll make another line. We'll start here, go to the outside, again hold your pen in place and make it go to about here. We'll go over the sides of our building, and then you can tap edit shape here at the top, and you can use these handles to move it around, and then you can look at this left side to make it attach neatly to that corner. You might need to move this one down a little bit to keep it horizontal. Now let's go back to the layer menu, the 2 little squares, and we'll make a layer between these two. We'll need to tap layer 3 and then tap the plus for a new layer. And for our color, we are going to grab this color over here, the 5th color in the first row. And this time we need a rectangle again, but this time we won't be drawing it, but we'll use the selection tool, because the selection tool will give you nice crisp corners. We'll tap the S shape ribbon, set it to rectangle, and make sure the color fill is turned on. Well, you'll know that it's turned on if it's blue. Then we'll make a rectangular shape. We'll start about here and make a rectangle that's about this size. And I actually forgot that this layer shouldn't be between these 2 layers, but it should be underneath it. So let's go to the layer menu and drag it underneath our house. That's better. There's nothing you can't fix in digital art. Now we need to change the shape a little bit. Let's go to the move tool, the move and transform tool. That's the little arrow. Set it to distort, and then go to snapping and turn on magnetics. You can turn snapping off. And when you use magnetics here and you pull this corner, you can see that you get that little blue line, and that will make sure that it stays horizontal. So pull it to the left just a little bit until it's a bit beyond the side of the house. And we'll do the same on this side. We'll pull it a little bit. Try to make it symmetrical. It's a bit of guesswork here. So you'll get something like this. Now let's go ahead and work on our windows and our door. Let's create a new layer. Let's do that on top of layer 3. Let's tap the plus. And for the color, we are going to grab the 6th color in the first row. And our brush, let's set that to the monoline brush again. That's under calligraphy. And I'm not sure if I mentioned the size before. Always make sure that the opacity is at 100%. The size is at 20% for me. And now let's create a circle. Just draw a circle over here and hold your pen in place and tap your finger or hold your finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. Like this. Then drag in the color to fill your shape. And then go to the move tool, the little arrow. Over here, turn on snapping instead of magnetics. Now we can see if our circle is in the center. You need to follow that vertical orange line and place it about here. You can see that like the center of our circle is aligned with the underside of our roof. Now we'll go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. We'll keep it set to rectangle, but we'll turn off color fill, and we'll make a selection of the bottom half of our circle, like this. Then you can swipe with 3 fingers, or you can go to your layer, tap it, and use clear. The 3-finger swipe does the same, but not everyone has 3 fingers, so it's important to know that you can also just go to the layer and use clear there. Now we'll go ahead and make our door. Let's do that on a new layer, so tap the plus for a new layer. And again, let's use the selection tool, the S-shape ribbon. Let's set it back to color fill. And we're going to make a selection that is about as wide as our window. So like this. Now let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and make sure that snapping is still turned on and set it to freeform here. I can drag this and you can see that vertical blue line. Then you'll know that it's aligned with the side of the window. And that's what we want. Over here, we want it to align with the bottom of the house. You'll see that horizontal blue line. So now our door is perfectly placed. And now let's make 2 more windows. Let's do that on a new layer again. So tap the plus. Again, let's use the selection tool, the S-shape ribbon. We still have color fill turned on. And let's make a rectangular shape here. Like this. And then tap the S-shape ribbon again to get out of here. We need to duplicate this window. You can go to the layer menu, drag to the left, and tap duplicate. And we'll go to the move and transform tool again. And to make sure that our window stays aligned with our first window, we need to turn on magnetics again. Let's turn off snapping and drag this window to the left. Place it all about the same area, trying to keep it symmetrical. What we'll do now is merge these 2 windows. You can do that by pinching them together. Then we'll go to the move tool again, and this time we'll turn on snapping instead of magnetics. Right now these 2 windows are one shape, and by moving it around we can put this one shape right in the center of our canvas, the vertical center. So check that vertical orange line and place these windows about here, a little bit lower than our door. And then once you have done that, you can tap the arrow again to get out of there. And now let's continue adding even more shapes to our house. First of all, we can get rid of that vertical line now, our symmetry tool. Let's go to the wrench and to canvas and turn off that drawing guide. This doesn't mean that symmetry is turned off. If you go to the layer menu, you can see that these layers are still assisted and symmetry still works there, but you just don't see that line anymore. Now first, let's go to layer 6. Let's duplicate that layer by dragging to the left and then tapping duplicate. Then go to the color menu, grab this color over here, the 8th color in the first row, and drag it onto the shape. Now we'll go to the move and transform tool. Keep it set to freeform. Let's turn snapping off and let's make it a little bit smaller. Use these corner handles or here in the center. Make it something like this. Oh, just a little bit smaller than our initial shape. Let's turn snapping back on. I turn it off because sometimes snapping is just a little bit annoying and it makes it hard to do these little tweaks in your shape. And now I want it to be in the center of the canvas. Even now it's acting a little bit annoying, but here we have our vertical orange line and it's nicely centered. Now let's first tap the brush. Let's make sure that we have it set to the monoline brush. And now let's tap and hold the eraser to select the monoline brush as an eraser. The opacity is set to 100% and let's set the size to 25%. And also let's turn on symmetry on this layer. Let's tap it and use drawing assist. And then first we'll make a vertical line here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly vertical line. And then let's make another line diagonally. Just make sure to hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line. And there we have our first window. Now let's do the same for these windows and for our door. let's make a new layer by tapping the plus. We do need to make it on top of these layers. Let's tap the plus. Now let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. It's still set to rectangle and color fill is still turned on. And now let's make a rectangular shape here. And now let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. So we can tweak it if needed. Sometimes you just need to turn snapping on because it's just snapping when you don't want it to. If you need to do little tweaks. And we do need snapping turn on if we want it to be right in the center. And if you need to do little tweaks, little bumps while snapping is turned on, you can just tap right outside of the shape to make it jump with, I think it's like 1 pixel at a time. Now let's duplicate the shape by going to the layer, dragging it to the left, tapping duplicate, then go to the move tool again, turn magnetics on instead of snapping because we want it to align with the window on the right, and place it in the center. And you know what? Let's actually duplicate it again to also use it for the door. Go to the move tool again, move it to the right, place it in the center here. Let's turn on snapping here. Let's turn magnetics off just to make sure that it's in the vertical center. There, this is perfect. Now we can merge these light layers, like the base layers for our windows and doors. Let's first place them together and then pinch these layers. And we can do the same for these blue layers. Now let's grab the eraser and work on this layer, on this blue layer. Tap the eraser. We still have it set to the monoline brush. And first let's make a vertical line in these windows. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. Let's also make 2 vertical lines for our door. Hold your pen in place, tap 1 finger on the screen. And now let's make horizontal lines. Again, hold your pen in place, tap 1 finger on the screen, and divide the windows like this. Next, let's make some ornaments right here underneath our roof. We need to do that on a layer underneath that line on the roof. So let's tap the plus for a new layer. Let's also turn symmetry on here. So tap the layer, turn on drawing assist. And for our brush, we are going to use the monoline brush, but we are going to tweak it a little bit. To do that, we need to tap the monoline brush and go to properties. And we are going to turn up the maximum size. Let's set it to 50%. You can just tap here, type 50, and then just tap here. And now we'll go to stroke path, and we are going to turn up the spacing just high enough so you get these little dots right next to each other. Something like this. And then tap done. We'll set the size to max to 100%. And we'll grab a different color. We'll grab this one over here, the 7 color in the first row. And then we'll start here and make a line to this area. You can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line. And you can tap your finger on the screen to make sure that it's horizontal. Or you can go to edit shape and play around with these little circles here. Let's place them a little bit higher. And just to this corner here. Something like this. Then we'll go to the brush again, tap the brush so we can make another line over here. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. And then go to edit shape again to tweak this till you get something that looks like this. And then we just need one more over here. Let's tap the brush, tap here for the center. And there we have a nice edge to our roof. Now we'll need to reset our brush because I want to use the monoline brush just like it's supposed to be. So let's tap the brush, then go to about this brush and go to reset all settings. Then tap reset, and now the brush is working like it's supposed to be, and then tap done. Now let's go to the eraser. It's still set to the monoline brush, and let's erase the part that is sticking out here. For the next step, we are going to add stairs in front of our house. Let's make a new layer just on top of this one, layer 6. Let's tap the plus. Let's grab a color. We already have the right color, actually, the 7 color in the first row. And let's use the selection tool again. We still have it set to rectangle. Color fill is turned on. Let's zoom in a little bit. And let's make a thin rectangle just in front of our door over here. Then we are going to make another one, but we'll do that on a different layer. We'll tap the plus in the layer menu and we'll grab that lighter color again, that 6 color in the first row. Then we'll go to the selection tool and we'll make another step, which is a little bit broader, a little bit thicker as well. Then again, we'll make a new layer by tapping the plus and we'll switch to the 7 color in the first row again. Then tap the selection tool and make another step, which is a little bit thicker and a little bit wider. And tap the S-shaped ribbon again. And there we have a simple looking stair. I want a light edge on our house just below here. Let's do that on a layer underneath these stair layers. Let's tap layer 6, then tap the plus for a new layer. Grab the 6th color in the first row. Then go to the selection tool again and let's make a selection. It doesn't matter if it's not very precise. We can just go to the move and transform tool and we can make it bigger and make it align with the side of the house. I do want it to be a little bit higher than that lowest stair. So let's turn off snapping so it doesn't snap for us and push it up just a little bit like this. Now let's go back to the layer menu and we are going to make these stairs a little bit more separate from each other by adding a little highlight at the top. But to make sure that we don't paint outside of the shapes, we are going to turn on alpha lock on these layers. So tap them, turn on alpha lock. We'll start with the stairs at the front. And for our brush, we're going to go to the treasure chest brush pack and use the round chalk brush. Let's set the color to this 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's turn down the size. Let's set it to 6%. The opacity is at 100%. And I will make a line like this. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen so that it's perfectly horizontal, and we'll do that for each step. So now go to layer 10, again make a thin line, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then move to layer 9. Right at the top, a little line. If you're a bit too high, then of course you can go to edit shape and put your line a little bit higher. You have total control here, just like that. And then you can just tap the brush, for instance, to get out of that menu. In our next step, we are going to create all the plants and the trees and the bushes for our scene. And we are going to start with some trees here at the top. Let's go ahead and grab a different brush. We are going to go to the calligraphy brushes and use the script brush. And for our color, we are going to grab this color over here. It's the 3rd color in the 3rd row. And the opacity of this brush is set to 100% and the size is set to 3%. And now let's make a layer. Let's make a layer on top of layer 2. So it's behind our house. To make it behind our house, we need our layer to be underneath the house layer. So let's tap the plus. And now let's make a swooping shape like this. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's add an extra shape over here. Let's drag in the color to fill it. And then let's make another shape on this side. Again, let's make it nice and playful. Add some holes in it as well. Drag in the color. I want a little hole here as well. Let's tap and hold the eraser to make it snap or switch to the, what's it called? The script brush. To make a little opening here. If you want this to look more crisp, you can just go back to the brush and go over here. So these are our basic tree shapes. Let's make more on a layer underneath. If we put the layer underneath, these trees will be behind the trees we have just created. So let's tap layer 2, then tap the plus for a new layer, and then grab this first color in the first row. Now let's make another playful shape. Let's start here. Make a shape like this. Drag in the color to fill it. And then let's go over here and make a shape like that. Fill it. Let's also add some extra shapes. Let's make a smaller one over here. And drag in the color to fill these shapes. Let's add another extra shape here. It's not realistic, but it's nice and stylized and playful. If you want it to look like more crisp here, then just go to the eraser and erase a little part to make that more pointy. Do the same over here. And let's also add a little opening here. By working with the eraser, we can do the same over here. And again, if you want that to look more crisp, you can just go to the brush and then go along that edge to make that more pointy here as well. Now with the same color, I also want to add some bushes here. Let's make a shape like this. Dragging the color to fill it, and one over here like this, and drag in the color. Now let's make some more bushes on top of this layer. Let's tap the plus for a new one. And for the color, let's grab this second color in the first row. Not the first row, but the third row. Now let's make a shape like this over here, overlapping the other one. We're just going to nicely fill all these areas. Let's add one here. Make sure to close the shape before you drag in the color. One over here. Drag in the color. And let's add one over here on the side. You can only see half of it. Make sure that you fill the entire shape. Don't leave any gaps. And maybe some more bushes on top here. Let's tap the plus for a new layer again. And let's grab a different color. Let's grab this one over here, the fourth color in the third row. And let's make one over here, for instance. A bit rounded like a cloud. Drag in the color to fill it. And then on the other side, make one like this. Drag in the color. And now, of course, we don't want our trees to be floating, so let's also add the tree trunks. We want to do that on a layer that is behind these tree crowns, of course. So let's make a layer on top of layer 2 by tapping the plus. For our color, we will use this sixth color in the second row. And let's make our brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 15% perhaps. And let's make some tree trunks. Let's start here, make a thick one over here. And just add some random straight lines here. Adding some branches. Add one over here. And if you're using light pressure on your pen, you will get a thin line. And if you press hard, you will get a thicker line. Of course, that's when you use a pen that has pressure sensitivity. Doesn't work when you use your finger. So just some random tree trunks and branches sticking out. And we can add a little branch here. Perhaps one going through there. I think we have enough branches like this. Now let's move on and add more bushes to our scene. First, I want to add a little hedge right in front of our house. So let's make a layer in front of our house, so that should be on top of all the other layers. So tap the plus. And for our color, we are going to use this fourth color in the third row. We can actually stick with the script brush. And let's start about here, a little bit below our stairs here. And make a bit of a wobbly shape going to the right. Let's make the underside all the way to the right, then drag in a color to fill it. I feel like it can go up a little bit higher, so we'll go to the move tool, the little arrow, place it a little bit higher so it's almost touching the stairs. And now let's do the same on the other side. Let's tap the brush and let's start about here, make a wobbly line going to the stairs, then go down and back to the left again. I went up a little bit here. Let's fix that and then drag in the color to fill the shape. And now we are going to fill this area behind our hedge with more bushes. So let's make a layer underneath our hedge. Let's tap layer 4, tap the plus for a new layer, and let's start with this color over here. That's the 6th color in the 3rd row. Let's make a shape over here in front of that bush. Drag in the color. Then over here, let's make another cloud-like shape. Make sure you close your shape every time. Then let's grab this color over here, 1st color in the 3rd row. Let's make a shape over here. You can just fill these areas with some random bushy shapes. Fill the shapes. And now let's make a new layer on top of this one. So tap the plus. We need to separate these bushes a little bit because we want to add extra color and texture later. So if they would all be on the same layer, that wouldn't be possible. Now let's grab this orange, the 1st color in the 2nd row. And let's make a shape here in front of the other bushes. Then over here, random shape, drag in the color, and then finally another layer with some more bushes with another color. Let's use this color again, the 2nd color in the 3rd row. Let's make a little bush over here and one overlapping these, maybe one here. Small one over here, and a bigger cloud-like shaped bush here. Then drag in a color. You can also tap continue filling with recolor at the top, and then you'll find this little crosshair. Drag it into one of the shapes and then tap the other shapes to fill those as well. Now we'll add more shapes in front of everything, so let's make a layer on top of all the others. Tap the plus. Then for the color, let's grab this 1st color in the 3rd row and make a nice bushy shape over here. Drag in the color and another one over here. Drag in the color. Then on a new layer on top of this one, tap the plus, grab a different color, grab this 3rd color in the 1st row, make a bush shape here, drag in the color. Then let's grab the monoline brush again. I want some more control. I don't want wobbly lines. Now let's make these bended lines. We will create some flowers here. So just some curved lines like this. Then another layer on top of this one, tap the plus. This time we'll grab the orange, 1st color in the 2nd row. And we are going to add these ovals on here. These are very simple flowers. Let's create simple ovals, and then you can drag in the color, use continue filling with recolor again, move the crosshair, and then tap these shapes to fill them. Then I also want some more orange here on the left side, so tap the brush and then create some shapes over here. Let's just fill them in by hand. Like there are some berries here, or perhaps some flowers as well. And in this artwork, I'm using a complementary color scheme. The reds and the greens are complementary colors, and if you would like to learn more about that, then be sure to check out my ebook about color theory. It's totally free if you go to freefromflow.com. Now we just need a few more simple shapes. We are going to make them on top of the grass. We can actually just make a layer on top of everything else. Let's tap the plus. Then let's go and grab this color over here, third color in the second row, and we'll just make some ovals. These are rocks, like stepping stones in this garden, and we'll make them a little bit bigger as we move to the foreground. Let's make a small one here, and then one over here. Then drag in the color, use continue filling with recolor, drag the crosshair, and tap these shapes. Then tap the brush to get out of the menu, and I think it would be nice if we create another little rock here right in the front. And drag in the color again. Now we have all our base colors for our artwork, and now it's time to add texture to all of them. You are halfway there. If you already enjoyed this first half, then you will definitely enjoy the second half, because adding all the textures will really bring this piece to life and add more interest. Also, before we continue adding texture, this is also a great moment to hit that thumbs up button if you are enjoying this tutorial. And if you leave a comment or subscribe to the channel, then you are the best. It is a super easy way to support this channel. Now let's continue. We'll start our texturizing adventure with our background. So we'll go to the bottom layer, layer 1. And for our brush, we are going to use the spackle brush. And you can find it in the treasure chest brush pack. Here it is, the spackle brush. And for our color, we are going to use this second color in the first row. Let's set the opacity of the brush to 75%, and let's turn the size up to 100%. And then let's just go over the top area here, adding some blue, go from the top to the bottom, then another stroke here at the top. So we just have some very subtle texture. I'm not even sure if you can see it on camera, but it's there. And I will switch our color to this one over here. It's the fifth color in the second row. And we'll set our size to 45%. And now we're going to go and use the selection tool, the S-shaped ribbon. We'll set it to freehand and we'll turn off color fill. And I will make some wispy shapes like this every time close the selection. Just some random wispy shapes across your sky like this. Then we'll go back to our brush and go over these areas. When you have an active selection, you can only paint inside of that selection. So that way you can create these very nice crisp shapes. Then tap the S-shaped ribbon again to turn off the selection. And now let's move on to our foreground. Let's start with these trees in the back. So that's layer 14. Let's tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. That way, when we use that spackle brush, our spackles won't show up outside of those tree shapes. And for our color, let's start with this color over here. But we'll be using loads of colors to get a lot of variety in our textures. So the fifth color in the third row. And now let's just go over these trees, making rounded motions. Adding some of these dark spackles here as well. And this one, that's also on this layer, and this one over here. And this tree. Just some nice spackly texture. Then let's use that selection tool again, the S-shaped ribbon, and let's make some shapes here. Just some random shapes that we can use to add more interest to this tree. Let's make a shape here, bit like a banana shape. And over here we can make these diagonal shapes, a little bit rounded perhaps. That's enough. Now for our color, let's use this one, third color in the third row. And then make sure to grab your brush. And then you can go over these selections. Again, only painting inside of the selection. It's super handy. And add these nice touches to these trees. Then let's turn off the selection by tapping the S-shaped ribbon. And let's go over these edges, adding even more light touches. Over here as well, some light on the left, or no, the right side. And then let's go and grab this blue color over here. It's the 9th color in the first row. And let's use that around the edge here, right next to the other tree, to nicely separate them. Add some blue here as well. So we get a nice deep blue shadow area. And over here at the bottom. Now that we have added texture here, let's move on to the trees in front. That's layer 13. Let's turn on alpha lock here. And for our color, what shall we do? Let's first grab this darker green, that first color in the third row. And let's use that for our first pass of texture. Making these rounded motions again. And on this side as well. And let's make random shapes again with the selection tool. Making like these long droplet-like shapes. Perhaps a little shape over here. Droplet-like shape here. Over here, and now tap the brush, and then let's grab a different color. Let's grab this very dark one, that 5th color in the third row, and then let's go over here very gently. I'm not using a lot of pressure. So now we have these shapes. Then we'll turn off the selection again and make another pass of texture. This time I would like to grab a lighter color. Let's grab this one, 6th color in the third row. And let's go along the edge. Lightening that up. And nicely separating this from that tree in the background. There's a nice contrast between this light tree and a very dark one right behind it. And you can see that it's really adding so much more interest to our illustration. Let's move on and go to this layer over here, layer 15. Let's turn on alpha lock here as well. A faster way to do it is by swiping to the right with 2 fingers. Let's do that for layer 16, on which we'll work later. So if you swipe with 2 fingers to the right, it immediately turns on alpha lock. But right now we're working on layer 15. Let's go and grab a color. Let's grab this 5th color in the third row. And let's add some texture again. Some dark green. Some shadow color. Like this. Then we'll use the selection tool again for some nice shapes on here. Let's make these rounded diagonal shapes. And perhaps one that goes halfway. Little droplet shapes. And over here, a rounded diagonal. Make some thinner, some a little bit thicker. You can vary with the shapes. Then tap the brush and then grab a lighter color. Which one shall we use? Let's do the 6th color in the third row. And let's just go over here, add some light. And over here as well. Try to stick with one side. Don't add it all over, so you get a nice little gradient. Then turn off the selection by tapping the selection tool. You can go over again, adding a little bit more light, blending it just a tiny bit. And then let's go and grab that dark blue again, that ninth color in the first row, to add a little bit of shadow here at the bottom. That way it'll nicely separate from the other bushes in the foreground. Here as well in this corner, a little bit over here, and definitely here. I'll focus on the left side right next to that bush. We are doing great here. Let's move on to layer 16. We have already turned alpha lock on here by using that 2-finger swipe. And what shall we do for our color? Let's grab this color, that 7 color in the third row. Let's use that for some base texture. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but it's here, it's subtle. Let's switch to a darker color as well. The 5th color in the third row. We're switching a lot with the colors. I hope you can keep up, but of course you can always hit pause if you need to. Now let's make some shapes on this one. Let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. Create some of these rounded diagonals, or perhaps a little bit of tiger stripes. Then tap the brush and go over here for a little dark pattern. Then turn off the selection tool by tapping the S shape ribbon. And now let's grab this color, that 6th color in the third row, and go along the edge, like a little of a highlight, a little light edge on this side as well, on the right side of this bush. And now we have done all the bushes here on the background. We can move all the way to the top here to layer 19. Again, turn on alpha lock, and for the color, let's go and grab this one, the 7th color in the third row, and let's go over this bush first. It's very subtle. Let's do some here as well. So first we have a little subtle color, then let's grab this color, very light color, the 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's go along the edge for some light here. It nicely separates these bushes. And then for some blue, let's grab this 8th color in the first row. So we have a little bit of a lighter blue. Let's go over the bottom area here. Adding some shadow here as well. Then for these bushes, let's make them a little bit bluish as well. I also want to add some of that pinkish color. This one over here, that 7th color in the first row. Let's go over this edge here. And this one as well. Then we can move on to the orange bush. Again, turn on alpha lock, important step. Then let's stick with this color actually, with that pinkish color. Let's go over top area. Then let's add a pattern with the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. Let's add some of these like tiger stripes. These rounded diagonal shapes. Like this. Then we can grab the brush, and for the color, let's use that 8th color in the first row, and let's gently go over here for these crazy tiger stripes. Then let's turn off the selection. Let's go over again, just a little bit more blue right here at the bottom, and we can also switch to that 6th color in the first row for even a bit more light here at the top and here at the top as well. And you can see that this orange-like bush, it gives a nice variation in our bushes. It breaks the whole pattern a little bit. It adds some variety. so you don't have to stick with those greens and blues. A garden with only green would be a little bit boring. Now let's move on to layer 21. Let's turn on alpha lock again. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I have used it so many times and I still can't find it that easily. Now for the color, let's grab this 5th color in the 3rd row. And let's first just add a little bit of dark texture, making these rounded motions. Then let's use the selection tool again. Make some of these lines. And on this one as well. And on this one. Then we'll grab the brush, tap the brush. Then for the color, we'll use this 6th color in the 3rd row. And let's go over and add a little bit of light. On the bushes on the right side, I'll focus on the left side, and here on the left side, I'll focus on the right side, add a bit more light there. A little bit as if the light is coming from the house itself. Then tap the S-shaped ribbon and go over the edge again to add even a bit more light on these little bushes as well, just a little bit. And you can also switch to that dark blue, that 9th color in the 1st row, and add a tiny bit of shadow, just a little bit, little dab for even more color variation. Then let's move on to our little hedge. First I want to turn on alpha lock, and then I want to go to another brush. We are going to do something different here. We'll go back to that script brush under calligraphy, make it nice and big, let's say 45%. And for the color, let's grab that 1st color in the 1st row. And we are going to break the shape up by making some of these lines. Also, again, a bit like tiger stripes almost, or a zebra. I just want a little crazy pattern here to break up this, well, pretty boring shape here. So we're adding a very stylized pattern work here. A bit like grass, very stylized grass. So once you have gone over the entire hedge, we can start adding our spackles again. So let's go back to the treasure chest brush pack, use the spackle brush. Let's start by just using this color that we're already using and go over here so that everything gets a bit more blended, like this. Then we'll switch to the 4th color in the 3rd row. Again, go over to blend it a bit, and then at the bottom I would like to use that dark blue, that 9th color in the 1st row. And we'll go over that lower edge, add a little bit of shadow there. And at the top I would like to go light. You can use that 5th color in the 2nd row there, and go over the top area. And you can see that I'm painting a little bit outside of the shape actually, but the paint is still showing up on that hedge. All right, now let's move on to the grass. Let's do that first. Now we'll go to the bottom, to layer 2, and let's also turn on alpha lock here, just to be sure that we won't go painting over our sky. You never know. For the color, let's grab this color over here, 2nd color and the 3rd row. Let's make the brush 100% in size and make some strokes over here just to add some base texture first. Then we'll make the brush smaller. We'll go for 10%. And for the color, we'll grab this dark one, the 5th color and the 3rd row. And let's add a little bit of shadow here underneath the house. And also here underneath that hedge. Just a little bit of shadow. Just follow that line. Making these horizontal strokes here. Perhaps a little bit more here around the corner. And let's add some extra texture. Let's add a little bit of that zebra-like pattern here as well. So go to the S-shape ribbon. Let's move our canvas a bit. Let's make a shape like this. Close the selection. Another zigzaggy shape. And perhaps another one over here. And we'll go and grab our brush. And for our color, let's grab that first color in the third row again. And let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 45%. And I'll go over these selections and add some texture here. Like that. Then turn off the selection by tapping the S-shape ribbon. And let's go over this area again just to merge it a little bit. Make the foreground a little bit darker. There. Now let's switch to this color, the sixth color in the third row. I want to add a little bit of light underneath these rocks. Let's make the brush smaller again to do that. Let's go for 10%. And I'll make a little edge right underneath here. And over here as well. Just go along each of these edges. Over here. Just underneath that small rock and over here. Then let's do the rocks. Where are they? They are right here at the top, layer 25. Let's turn on alpha lock. And let's go and grab this color, fourth color, second row. Let's put our canvas a little bit in the center again. Let's set the size of our brush to 45%. And let's just glaze over these rocks like this. Then go and grab the selection tool. And let's make these crazy patterns here as well. Just some of these pointy lines to break the shapes of these rocks a little bit. Then grab the brush, go over here, and this is really, it's going to be very subtle, but it adds a little bit to the rocks. Then tap the S-shape ribbon again, switch the color to this light one over here, the fifth color in the second row, and lighten the top of the stones a little bit. Let's make the brush a bit smaller again, 10%. So we get more control. So lighten the tops for each of these rocks. And you can still see that little pattern, those pointy shapes that we have created. Let's lighten this one up as well. And now for a dark little edge, we'll grab this 8th color in the first row, that blue, and we'll go just along the edges, just along the undersides. Very thin edge, a little shadow. Finally this one. We can't see the underside of this rock, so you don't need to do anything there. Now let's move on to the bushes in the foreground. First, let's do layer 22. Let's turn on alpha lock again. Then let's set the size of our brush to 45%. And let's stick with this blue that we already have. Let's go over here and add some of these blue spackles. Let's do the same on the right side. Then let's switch to the light green. That's the 6th color in the third row. And let's go along the edge here. I love this combination of that light yellowish green and that blue. Over here as well. Go along the edge. And then let's switch to the stems and this bush. Again, turn on alpha lock. then let's first grab that blue again, 8th color in the first row. A little bit of blue, a little bit of blue here. Then let's switch to this color. Let's grab that 5th color in the 3rd row. A little bit of that here as well. And then let's grab the orange, that 1st color in the 2nd row. Let's add some orange to the right side here, a little bit of a glow. And here at the bottom of our stems, we can use a little bit of orange there. And then finally, before we move on to the house, we need to add some texture to the flowers. Again, make sure to turn on alpha lock. And for our color, let's first grab this red, that 4th color in the 1st row. And let's set the size to 10% again. First, let's go over the undersides of these flowers. And we're going for the undersides because the light is coming from the top. That's where the sun is. So naturally, the undersides would be a little bit darker. Do the same here, just a little bit. And then let's switch to that light color, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And then we'll add a little bit of light at the top. I'm making rounded motions, just like this, on each top of these flowers or ovals. They're very stylized flowers. And over here. Now we have a nice texture. Before we move on to the house, let's actually add a little bit of texture to these tree trunks as well. We would almost forget. Let's go to layer 17, turn on alpha lock, and let's go and use that selection tool again. I want to add some diagonal shapes here as well. Just a few. Some random spots. Now let's grab, well, we don't have to grab it, we already have the brush. Let's grab the blue color, the 8th color in the 1st row, and let's add just some slight texture. It's hard to see, it's very subtle, but it's there, and it just gives an extra touch. And tap the S-shaped ribbon again, and now we are ready to move on to the house. Let's start with the windows. Let's go to layer 6. Let's turn on alpha lock there as well. And let's grab the dark blue, the 9th color in the 1st row. And let's first go over the top here. Making this rounded motion. And then here at the top, and since assisted is still turned on, this shadow will also show up on the left side, although I'm not sure if you can see it on camera. But we got a subtle shadow here at the top now. Then let's move on to the house itself. The red shape we have here, let's turn on alpha lock here as well. And then for the color, let's grab this dark red, that 4th color in the 1st row. And let's make the brush bigger again. Let's set it to 45%. And now let's go over the underside of the house for some subtle red texture. Let's also go along this edge. And also here, assisted drawing is turned on so it ends up on both sides. Now let's grab the blue, the dark blue, the 9th color in the 1st row. And let's go along the lower edge again. I'm actually painting outside of the shape to slowly build it up. I don't want too much here. A bit like this. And then let's go along this edge, also painting outside of the shape because I don't want too much. over here as well. Then I'll make the brush smaller. I'll go for, oh, where is it? That 10%. And then go along the edge here and make it even darker. Like this. Now I want to add some brick-like texture, and I want to use the selection tool again for that. But we'll set it to rectangle this time. Let's zoom in onto our house. And let's make some rectangles, some selections here in random places. You can make some go outside of the shape here. So just some random spots for these rectangular shapes. Try to make them look random. So something like this. You can grab the brush again and another color, the fourth color in the first row. And then we'll go over these bricks. Let's make the brush bigger again, 45%. Let's go over these bricks or over these selections to make them look dark. And we'll do this again. We'll tap the S-shaped ribbon again to make more selections. So we can also make some lighter bricks. So again, we'll go for random places. For our bricks. Try to keep the sizes a bit equal. I think this is enough. Then we'll switch to the fifth color. Will look nice. Then grab the brush and then go over so we can get some nice light textured bricks. I love it. Let's go to another layer. Let's go to layer 8. That's the one with these, well, this little ornament. Let's turn on alpha lock and let's add a little shadow here as well. Let's first turn off that selection. We don't need that. Then for the color, let's actually use the color we have right now. And let's set the size of the brush to 10%. And let's go along this edge for a little subtle shadow. And now let's switch to the blue, the 8th color in the first row. For also a little bit of blue in that shadow. Just along the edge like this. Now let's add some texture to our windows and doors. Those are on layer 6. Let's turn on alpha lock. And for our color, let's grab the 5th color in the first row again. And let's first add some texture here at the top and on the top of this window. And over here, just to add some interest. Don't want them to look too smooth. Then a little bit here at the top, using very light pressure. Then let's grab the selection tool, set it to rectangle, make sure color fill is turned off. And let's make a selection like this, just outside of those blue windows. Then grab the brush and then go over this top area to make that darker. Then tap the selection again and again. So we can also make a selection over here, the same width as the windows, or try to get it close to that. Then grab the brush again and let's add some color to this area and a little bit more at the top so that it's a nice subtle gradient. Then again, another selection, the S-shaped ribbon. This time we'll use the ellipse. And let's make a little circle over here for the doorknob. Then grab the brush, go over it like this. And then let's grab that darker red, that 4th color in the first row. And let's go over that lower area to darken that a little bit. Then tap the S-shaped ribbon again. And now let's add a little bit of shading to the stairs. That's these layers 9, 10, and 11. Let's start with layer 9. Let's grab the blue, the 8 color in the first row. And let's go over this corner, adding a little bit of blue there. Then layer 10. Also go over there, just a little bit. And then finally layer 11. For some shading there. Now we're really almost there. Now we just need to do the roof. And again, we are going to make use of the selection tool to get nice crisp edges while we add that spackly texture. So first let's go to the roof layer, layer 5 here at the bottom. Make sure to turn on alpha lock and then go to the selection tool. Set it to rectangle again. And start about here in the lower left. And then make a selection like this going up. And select a small part of the roof. Then for the color, we are going to grab this one over here, the third color in the first row. Again, use the spackle brush and go along the edge of the selection. Now actually, to make it easier, we can go to the layer and turn on drawing assist, so we only have to paint on one side. So tap the layer, turn on drawing assist. And now let's make our next selection. Tap the S-shaped ribbon, then again. And now make a selection that's slightly higher. Then grab the brush. And of course we only need to paint on one side. Just here, add a little bit of shading, then tap the S-shaped ribbon twice and make a selection that's slightly higher again. Grab the brush. Paint over that edge to add that texture, and then tap the S-shaped ribbon again twice for an even higher selection. Grab your brush, go over the edge like this, then tap the S-shaped ribbon again twice for a final selection. Grab your brush, paint over the edge. Then turn off your selection, and for this top here, I want to add a lighter color. Let's grab the second color in the second row, and let's add some light to the top. Just to get some texture there as well. And that's it, you have made it till the end. You should be proud of yourself, and why don't you turn it into a streak and try one of the other tutorials? You might like this one, for example, if you haven't done it already, of course. In any case, I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. I hope you will be sharing your results, and I hope it's not too much trouble for you to hit that thumbs up button. I would like to thank you for watching, and I'm hoping to see you next time for the next tutorial.